ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today. Subscribe at ILTV.tv and watch from any device. All right, speaking of international relations, the Bennett-Lapid government now taking their promise of repairing ties with the West to new heights. On Monday, Foreign Minister and alternate Prime Minister Yair Lapid meeting with United States congressional Democrats and members of the Jstreet lobby organization. And this making for the first time in at least 4 years that a senior Israeli cabinet member entertained the controversial lobby group. The question then is, why did Israel stop meeting with Jstreet in the first place? And is it a good idea to change course now? Here to answer is columnist for Newsweek and editor of HistoryCentral.com, Marc Schulman. Marc, it's great to have you back with us. Now, Jstreet, while promoting itself as a pro-Israel lobby group, has been accused of being anything but. That said, the saying goes, you don't make peace with your friends. So what do you think about the Netanyahu-era blacklisting of talks with Jstreet?
I think it's a great mistake, especially if you were blacklisting congressmen who come on behalf of Jstreet. You cannot have any effect on people if you don't meet with them, if you don't talk with them, if all they get is the other side's views. And particularly this group includes the congressman in the district that I still theoretically vote in, Jamal Bowen, who I actually wrote to Foreign Minister Lapid about and said he was the soft edge of the squad, so to speak. He's been trying to be a member of the squad and isn't quite. And he said, we really need to concentrate our efforts in trying to push him away from the squad. Now, if he would refuse to meet with them, what would that have been saying? What would that say to our chances? He finally did come to Israel, something that I know the people in the district were pushing. He came with Jstreet, okay, but Jstreet has a lot of problems, and I'm not a great supporter of Jstreet. On the other hand, they're not anti-Israel, they're not anti-Zionist. They would be, a little bit to the left of Meretz if they were in Israel, so to speak. And so the reality is it's most important to engage, because if you don't engage, you can't change any minds, you can't impact any minds. And worse than that, even if you don't change any minds, all you hear is the other side's views completely. And one of the most important things to get across to Jstreet and most of the American Jewish left is the fact that we can't bring about peace all by ourselves. And the Palestinians have a part in this. And until something changes on that side, all of this talk is all theoretical. Yes, we can improve the daily lives of the Palestinians, but we cannot bring about peace because it requires two sides to make peace.
All right, so I understand what you're saying about Jstreet, and I really do. But devil's advocate here, as I alluded to, Jstreet advocates for cutting military aid to Israel. They supported the debunked anti-Israel Goldstone report. They promoted BDS against the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and they backed the forming of an Israel-Palestine Confederate state. They also have smeared in the past Israel groups like AIPAC and Birthright, and Jstreet founder Daniel Levy himself once said that, quote, maybe Israel wasn't such a good idea. So you don't think there's any chance that Israel is maybe legitimizing or normalizing Jstreet's opinions by engaging with them in this fashion?
No, I think they've been legitimized already. We could have, if this was the first 2 weeks they were operating, I would say, yes, we don't legitimize it. But they've been operating, if I'm not mistaken, for about 15 years now in Washington. They have substantial support, especially amongst the younger people. I think that while some of those views that you've mentioned have been stated by Jstreet, they're not the official policy in most cases. And, you'll find the Israeli left, quietly, because it's not legal to boycott the West Bank and the West Bank settlements, etc. So people won't effectively boycott or officially boycott it, but it happens just the same. So I think that, look, you're not whitewashing them because they're already part of the Washington scene. They already have support. They already have a lot of congressmen, a significant number who listen to them, who at least get input from them. They're very active on campuses. The point of the view is, don't let some of the extreme views that you just mentioned become their normal views, and try to push them a little bit in our direction, a little bit influence them. You cannot influence people who you boycott. We're against boycott, right? So what, are we going to boycott people who have views that are not exactly aligned with our views? And certainly it makes no sense. Now, it made a little more sense in the Netanyahu period because he could really offer them nothing, because his views were, even though he came and made the Bar Ilan statement of two states, generally he didn't repeat that at all. On the other hand, Lapid can talk about two states, even though it's not likely to happen anytime soon. He can talk about it. The Meretz can talk about it. Labor can talk about it. They're in favor of it, etc. So they have something to sell Jstreet. And they have something to sell Jstreet in the idea that right now there is a government that includes lots of different groups, lots of different views. And the Israeli government today, while not left-wing, is not right-wing. And it will try its best to find its way. So I'm 100% in favor of this. I don't see any down at this point. I mean, we cannot write off all the people who criticize us in any way, because listen, we're not perfect. Sometimes some criticism is even legitimate once in a while.
All right, Marc Schulman, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure.